and do to help Beaver County move forward. We're going to put these on the screen here in a second, but I'm just going to briefly run through them as they come up. There we go. I'm not going to read them all entirely, but basically we want to support education initiatives in Beaver County. We want to help with the implementation of broadband access to all homes in Beaver County, which the commissioners are making tremendous strides with. We want to support economic growth, business infrastructure, and workforce development. We support a comprehensive and collaborative marketing strategy for Beaver County, working not only with the commissioners, but with industry. And we want to advocate for responsible competitive tax policies. And most importantly, support a more efficient regulatory environment. And I always like to use the example of permitting. We all know how difficult permitting can be, and I know from the state level all the way down to Valley County, it's becoming quite an issue. So we're going to be advocating for that in the coming year. I'd also like to recognize our elected officials that are here with us today. Besides our commissioners, we have Saron Cox from Representative Chris DeLuzio's office. We have Monica Beaver and Erica Sumner from PA Representative Josh Kale's office. Sandy Agley, who's our Beaver County Treasurer. Jody Jones, who's our Prothonotary. Maria Longo, who's for our Controller. My good friend and shareholder at Strasburger, McKenna, Gutnick, and Gafeski, and he's also the solicitor for the chamber, my good friend Harry Kunzelman. Harry? Oh, there he
is. Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this year's edition of State of the County. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the Fez for hosting the event this year. Our firm to be presenting sponsor of this event. We've done so a number of years in the past, and we think it's in the county. I'd also like to thank Commissioners Camp, Amadeo, and Manning for giving their time to this event, which is very important to the Chamber and county residents. I appreciate this brief opportunity to give you a little advertisement about our firm. We've been around for over 100 years in one form or another in Western Pennsylvania, and we've been a proud Chamber member since 2010. We were also the proud recipients of one of the Chamber's Business of the Year, large for-profit category in 2017. And for those of you who don't know what we do, we are a full-service law firm pertinent to this audience. We do a lot of work around businesses and companies. We help folks in their formation stage when they're forming their businesses. We assist people with real estate transactions. We help people grow their business. We help them protect their business from liabilities and claims. We do work in the employment area, HR, wage and hour type compliance issues, tax issues. We can help folks with intellectual property protection. We work with folks on estate and succession planning, so if you want to transfer your business to your next generation, we can help you with that. We've helped folks buy and sell businesses. You name it, we do it. We also have a very robust school law practice. My colleague Alan Shuckrose here, he's one of the leading attorneys in Pennsylvania for charter schools. We do other school work. Alexis Wheeler, who's here, does a lot of municipal work. She's the new solicitor for New Swickley Township. My colleague David Strasburger and I do a lot of dispute litigation. So if you find that you have any of these issues, let us know. Visit us at smgglaw.com or see one of us later today. So thank you for the opportunity once again to sponsor, and I think I'm turning it over now to Katie Claver.
Thank you, Harry. Harry, and Harry also is just an incredible asset to the chamber, and we thank him for that help. I would like to, before I get started, recognize the members of the board of directors of the chamber, many of whom are here today. And if you could stand and be recognized for the hard work that you do for this organization. Well, thank you very much. My name is Katie Klaber. I'm serving as acting chair of the chamber, and I am filling in today as moderator for Tracy Wallace, who's done an incredible job as moderating the Beaver County breakfast for the last few years. But she, along with our state delegation, are in Harrisburg today, watching the governor's budget address live. So hopefully we may touch on some of those state issues that are important to our commissioners and to our county. A quick update on what the board is working on at the Beaver County Chamber. First and foremost, we are in the middle of a very important search for our next president. It should be wrapping up with some news here by the end of the month. And personally, I've just been very impressed with my fellow board members and our search committee in the dedication that they're showing, the very intentional search. It's been a wonderful opportunity for the board to go through this, and we are fortunate to have so many engaged leaders. I also wanted to give an update, if Molly, you could go to the next slide, that the chamber had a very important accomplishment last year. We created a 501c3, and want to thank Harry and Charlie Silak on our board for their work, as well as Donna Lee, our prior president. We put in place a 501c3 that gives the organization the ability to accept tax-deductible donations, different than the C6 of which the chamber is organized, and also to deploy those resources in the community. I'm pleased to report that the majority of the board has already donated, and if anybody in the room is interested in engaging with the 501c3, please let any of us know. The other update that I'd like to give, and the visuals are a little bit better over on this screen here, but we've done a deep dive on understanding our 500 plus members. We put together some maps and some analytics. Thanks very much to Jessica Goodall at Michael Baker's GIS team who did this pro bono for us. Really appreciate that going above and beyond by Michael Baker. But we were pleasantly surprised to see the geographic diversity of our members. Of the 54 municipalities in Beaver County, only 15 don't have a member, so we'll be coming out to those municipalities this year and making sure that we have that geographic diversity. But even more importantly is spending time with those members in those communities. You'll see the chamber in 2024 being even more present throughout all corners of the county. And on the next slide, we've also taken a look at the types of industries, the types of companies and nonprofits that are our members, and those too are diverse, and really understanding the very specific value proposition for each of those members and serving that to our membership is going to be a real hallmark of 2024. So with that, I really want to turn it over now to the most important part of this morning's breakfast and why we see such an amazing turnout, of Beaver County, and that's because these gentlemen have given of their time to be with us this morning, working on an incredible variety of issues as commissioners. We're very happy to have all three re-elected in November, so they're hitting the ground running here in 2024. So what we're going to do here is ask the commissioners to really do a set of introductory comments. That's probably a really good time if you want to ask a question and haven't yet to write it on the note cards at your table. put those up, and the staff and the team will come around and collect those, and then we'll have the honor of trying to get as many as possible answered in the time remaining. But to start off, I'd really like each one of you in turn to provide a short summary of what you see as the state of Beaver County, the views of the major issues, challenges, opportunities, at a pretty high level. I'm sure we'll have time to delve into each one of those in turn. Commissioner Camp, would you like to start?
We sitting or?
I think it's probably best to sit if you can. I'm going to come join you here. If that
No problem, absolutely.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me on both sides of the room here? Perfect, all right. Thank you, as always. It is great to see so many familiar faces here at the State of the County. Thank you to the Chamber staff for their hard work in getting so many business owners, community leaders, labor leaders here with us today, who all play a pivotal role and have a high stake at the state of our United County. To John Thomas, his staff, thank you for not only hosting us today, but thank you for continuing on providing such a great venue for our neighbors who can have events here of all sorts and sizes. It is hard to believe that in 2016, I was a 26-year-old novice sitting in this very room, addressing many of you on the path I envision Beaver County to be moving forward. I am proud to say I'm finally starting to show my age. I'm 35, and this is my 9th state of the county. While many things have changed since 2016, what hasn't is my mindset and this board's mindset is doing what is best for the county and our residents here in Beaver. I, along with my colleagues, took an oath of office to do our job and make decisions that's in the best interest of our county residents. Today we'll discuss many things that are taking place inside our courthouse or throughout our county. These happenings may start with the three of us up here, but they're only made possible by the people that we work with daily at the county courthouse, or with the business and community leaders throughout Beaver County. Commissioner Amadeo has always told me that any day I walk into the courthouse, it's going to be a new adventure. Over the last 8 years, the Board of Commissioners has dealt with many issues that have affected our residents and also our employees in the courthouse, and some issues were bigger than others. We've went through 2 presidential election cycles with a third coming this year, a countywide court-ordered reassessment, a petrochemical fire in Rochester, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the East Palestine train derailment just a year ago. There may be many people in this room who actually ask, what does a county commissioner actually do? We act as the legislative and executive branch of county government. We are responsible for maintaining an orderly and efficient fashion of county government, and we manage all fiscal affairs. We have the responsibility for hiring, firing, and terminating those individuals who work underneath us. Since 2020, this Board of Commissioners have put our residents first. Whether we're standing united with our state delegation on the front steps of the courthouse for the safety and concern of our residents, or taking on former Governor Tom Wolf when he secluded us to an economic island and looked to hurt our residents and our small businesses. Unlike many of our surrounding counties, Beaver County reinvested our CARES Act and our ARP dollars back into our municipalities. With the help of Comptroller Maria Longo, everyone is able to access where that $92 million is actually being allotted. And for further transparency, Beaver County government could have accepted nearly half of that $92 million and kept that into our reserve funds due to the revenue formula set by the federal government. But my colleagues and I knew we need the needs of our municipalities, and we wanted to assist. As many of you heard in the newspapers and some of our meetings, we have allotted $20 million to a countywide broadband project, $5 million to public health, roughly $8 million to police and fire for a radio upgrade system, over $20 million allotted to municipal infrastructure needs, and $8 million to disproportionately impacted communities. While I could continue to go on and discuss many things that we have done, I am certainly here to answer the questions that you may have for this Board of Commissioners. But in closing, I think it's important that I address one thing. In early September 2023, the Beaver County Times posted 7 opinion pieces, and all 7 of those opinion pieces, in those titles, the word faltering was in them. As many of you know, falter is a verb that means to start to lose strength or momentum. I look to my colleagues here today, Commissioner Tony Amadeo and Commissioner Manning, many of our elected officials who are with us in the audience, many department heads, state elected officials, and thank them for their hard work and for the residents for the Beaver County. I look at many business owners, community leaders, our labor leaders who are here with us today, and faltering is not the word I think of, it's resurgence. Because I know with good partners and leaders, we will continue to resurge regardless of those who believe we are faltering. So today, it's my turn. Mr. Rossi Keene, I respect the fact that we have freedom of speech in Beaver County in this great United States. But before you leave here, I ask that you look around and think of those ignorant words you spewed in those faltering articles you wrote. You weren't only taking shots at my colleagues and I, but you were taking shots at all of Beaver County and its leaders who are here today and what we stand for. Beaver County is not faltering. Thank you.
Commissioner Manning.
Dan's a hard act to follow. Glad you showed up, Dan. By the way, I think my tie's older than you are. Like I've been 35. I mean, come on. I would just say, I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that Dan said, because I do thank a lot of folks here. But I can't tell you, when I looked at the list of attendees, how grateful I am for how awesome Beaver County is. And that we have so many great organizations, from labor to nonprofits. And if I start naming a few, I'll skip somebody, I'll get in trouble. But I look at the leadership that's out in this room, and it gives me tremendous hope for continuing the progress that we've made. The state of county, from my standpoint, is strong. Our finances are stable and in good shape. Our bond ratings improving. Our economy is moving forward. I can only do a retrospective for the previous 4 years coming into this new second term, but I think the people have spoken that they like what they saw overwhelmingly to bring us back. Actually, that goes for most of the row offices as well. So to me, Beaver County is in good shape moving forward. Do we still have our issues? Yes, we have plenty of issues. You're never done. I think one of the things that I've learned in previous roles I've had, where I've had to lead organizations and stuff, is you really can't be a dreamer or a schemer to run an organization effectively. You have to deal with the reality as it is. And that's the thing that I think good governance is all about, dealing with reality. We each have a vision, we each have a strategy collectively of how to move the county forward, how to grow the county with jobs, population, and the different processes we need to make that happen. But there's a lot of issues we have to deal with in the meantime to the goal of where we want to get, which is greater prosperity for every resident in every segment, every aspect of Beaver County. And that takes a collective effort by all of you in this room and many of you outside this room. So from my perspective, Beaver County is strong. We're moving forward. We've progressed tremendously from the obstacles we had to overcome. Dan mentioned a few of those, but 2 months into my first term, we get hit with a pandemic, and then a recession, and then record unemployment, and then all of the other issues that we had to deal with, in addition to the court-mandated reassessment, a train derailment, and some other things. We've overcome that. I was just talking earlier, just a quick aside, to the Lathams, Tank and Lisa are here. Tremendous people done unbelievable things in New Brighton and across the county. But I watched Tank jump into the river for the polar plunge. You'll have to ask Tank why he did that. But I was glad he did, because I didn't have to do it. I could sit there and support you from a distance, Tank, to do that. But looking now at that, 600 people volunteered to jump in that river for Special Olympics. I mean, it was school districts and nonprofits and labor and the FOP. I mean, it just shows me how great Beaver County is, in addition to looking out in that room. So, Katie, I don't know if you want us to get into some of the challenges, I mean, and opportunities, or well, I mean, I will address the challenges, we have plenty in Beaver County. One is our dependency ratio, and I've talked about this before, the number of people under 18 and over 65 not in the workplace versus those in the workplace. Our dependency ratio in Beaver County is the highest in the region, between 71 and 72%. The national average is 53%. We're an aging country, we're an aging commonwealth, and we're an aging county. That presents some challenges for social services and the like, workforce development. It also presents an opportunity in that we could have the most multi-generational workforce with some very talented people that want to serve their county significantly if we tap into that. I'm worried about the impact of inflation on our Alice families. Those of you, I think Mary Lou's here somewhere, you know, the Alice, those folks are one paycheck away from disaster. Our poverty rate has dropped in the last few years overall, but the number of people that are one paycheck away from disaster has risen to a level that's not healthy. And then the other thing is our disaffected youth. I'm working with several groups, several nonprofits, several folks in this room to really make sure. I think one of the worst outcomes of COVID was what it did to our schools, what it did to our children, and we have a lot of issues trying to recruit that generation. So those are some of the challenges that I'm trying to work on. Don't fall directly under our purview, but those are things that I think impact the quality of life here in Beaver County that we need to continue to work on. So I look forward to your questions, and again, my appreciation. It's an honor to be here with you folks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be right here today in a place where I started my county career about 17 years ago in this very room. I'm awestruck about the amount of people that are here, and it's so hard to make sure you look and talk to everyone in the room. Jack and Dan, of course, thanked you all for coming. They thanked the sponsors, so I don't need to go through that again. But thank you for inviting Dan, Jack, and I for this event. It's always been an honor and a privilege for me serving the people's charge as a Beaver County Commissioner. Yeah, I often ask myself, why? You're 72 years old. Why are you still working? I'm still working because I love what I'm doing. I enjoy being able to pick the phone up and help somebody with their family, somebody with their parents, somebody with their child, being able to hook them up. Because that's what we do, basically. A lot of things are under our auspices. The main thing we do is facilitate. We're able to hook people up, hook families up with the proper office, the proper director to get the job done for our public. And that's why I'm so proud to be here, so proud to be a commissioner. I'm humbled and blessed in my life. I've had 2 complete careers. Most of you know that, because I know most of you in here, I don't necessarily remember all of your names, but your face, being a teacher, you remember faces, you remember family faces. It's amazing how the same people just keep coming back. And that's a privilege for Dan, Jack, and I. I went from teaching my students about presidents, former presidents, senators, representatives, to actually introducing them, representing my county. That's phenomenal. That's good. Makes me feel good, like I'm doing something, accomplishing something. We had a guy that worked for the Times back in the day, J.D. Prose, and he asked me, he says, after my first term, he says, why are you running? I said, I'm only going to run if I make a mark. And I know if I didn't make a mark, you'd come after me about it. So I ran, and I ran again, and I ran again. And I'm so happy that I just got elected my 5th term. I'm so proud of the people that worked hard for us in Beaver County. What better place is there to raise a family? The families that had to leave, you heard Steeler Nation, that's all over the country, that had to leave when the mills shut down. First thing they do when they get the chance is to come back to Beaver County. I raised my family here, my parents raised their families here, and hopefully my grandchildren will be able to raise their families here. We live in a phenomenal community where people care about each other. This is the fourth board that I've been part of. And I have to say, this is probably the best board I've been on. Because we fight, don't let anybody kid you, we fight in the back room, I don't fight, fist fight, but we disagree highly. But when we come out in the front, we're unanimous for the most part. Once in a while, somebody's so fixed on what they want to do, you'll see a vote that changes. But don't think that we don't debate the issues in the back room, because we have so many issues that we have to deal with. We managed COVID relief in a way that was second to none. We worked consistently with our citizens and our small businesses. We fought reassessment through the court system, all the way to the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. Why? Because our citizens wanted us to do that. I asked the question while we were doing it, has anybody in the whole Commonwealth ever won one of these? They said no. But we took it to the State Supreme Court because our people wanted us to do that. That's the main thing they wanted us to do. Your current Board of Commissioners worked as a team, and we've been very responsible for the way things have flown. We're progressive and proficient. We protected our children. We served our families. We managed our emergencies. We safeguarded our elections. And we're going to be challenged again this year with that. People are going to be coming out from the whole country to visit Beaver County. And we secure justice. We don't pay for the judges, but we pay for everything else in the court system. So we have to make sure that we have everything that the courts need to keep the bad guys in jail and help the good guys stay out of jail. And that's so very, very important. We deal with an association in Harrisburg. It's called CCAP, but we came up with 8 priorities. They are the 911 funding, addressing county inmates with mental health issues, dealing with county mental health-based funding requests. You see there's a commonality here with mental health issues. Right to know laws. We're so inundated with requests by law firms. It's the same people over and over and over again that ties up our entire staff trying to generate these documents. So in Harrisburg, we're trying to get legislation to reform those requests. Solving the juvenile detention capacity crisis. That's the thing we've been dealing with in the past 3-4 months. At one time, every county in southwestern Pennsylvania had a detention center. Then it came to the point where we didn't even need them. And they've been gone for about 8 years, but it's time that we're going to have to work out something with the counties in southwest Pennsylvania. Priorities, we discussed all these priorities, and both Dan, Jack, and I voted for these. Some of our local priorities include education and workforce development, small business, economic development, public safety, planning, and redevelopment, as well as quality of life. We have a great staff. We have a great system of directors. As I said, we make the call, they make it happen for us. Our chief clerk, Nikki Long, and my administrative assistant, Cindy Cook, who was Jack's former assistant, and now Echo Funk is his new one because Cindy went to community development. She's going to be assistant director of operations, a nice promotion for her. And it's a perfect fit for her. She's close to home and she's going to be able to do what she wants to do.
and not have to deal with me. So
I didn't want to say
there's fringe
that.
benefits of that.
Okay, Jack, Dan, and I facilitated over $6.5 million worth of CARES funds. She's looking at me like, where's the hook? We help people, we help businesses stay operational. I mean, it's important. We've given out money that wasn't our money. It came from the federal government. But again, we facilitated that money to get it to the people that really needed it. Jack alluded to the Alice people. Those are the working poor. Some of those people have to work 3 and 4 jobs, both husband and wife, to survive. So that's very important. And I got one last thing before I sit down, before I stand up, I don't know. The allocations that we got, which were close to $94 million. Broadband, we give $20 million to broadband. We're far ahead of most counties in our region with broadband development. Municipal infrastructure, which includes Heritage Valley and Beaver County Community College, $20 million. Disproportionately impacted community funding, $16 million. Small business grants, $1 million. Nonprofit grants, $1 million. Public safety grants, $1 million. We gave $50,000 to the Fire Chiefs Association. We gave $1 million to the men's shelter, $1 million to the women's shelter, $1 million to the Beaver County Career and Technology Center, $7.5 million for emergency radios, 911 upgrades, $6 million. And Brady's Run Water and Sewer, we're finally going to be able to go to the park and not worried about a giant spider biting you in the backside when you had to use the restroom. Because we're going to have restrooms that's going to have running water and sewage. A Discovery Center, $3.5 million. Constellation change orders, $2 million. Our concrete project, if you've been to the courthouse, you've seen all the new concrete that is out front, $2.7 million. Flooring, $1.8 million. And our budget commitment is $2 million. So you can see we've been busy just trying to manage the monies that we have to manage, because we have to make sure that everything's done properly so that we don't have to send the money back. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all 3 of you. We've got some great questions that we're going to work through here. I'd like to ask one more general question, though, for each of you. Every one of the government affairs priorities that Scott listed earlier, and many of the issues you've all touched on, require partnerships. I mean, none of us can get those heavy lifts done, as a single organization. And as evidenced by the group here this morning, we certainly have the business, the government, the nonprofit leadership, labor leaders, so much talent in this room. But could maybe each of you reflect on kind of the potential to leverage partnerships, where you see some strengths of that, maybe what are some of the priorities in 2024, and even some advice for the chamber as to where we can be, as robust with our partnerships as possible.
Okay, Commissioner. Good.
I think anybody that knows me knows I'm all about collaboration. That's pretty much what we've done in the courthouse. There's so many great collaborations with nonprofits and other folks, and just to give you a couple of examples, repopulating the trees in Brady's Run, worked with Bags and Blessings, a great organization. Win-win for them to do tree plantings in memory of folks that have been lost to cancer. We have collaborations with the Conservation District. We have collaborations with several of our nonprofits. We have great collaboration with Bridges and Pathways, the educational institutions that we have here. It's going to take continued collaboration across the board. The work that we've done with the Fire Chiefs Association and the 911 Center, trying to improve and increase response time to ambulance calls, which is a serious, significant issue for us. That's going to take collaboration. We don't have purview, direct control over these things, so we're going to need to continue to work through. In addition to economic development, doesn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of times, we're the last ones to know what's happening out there with the parcel or some stuff. So we work very closely with Beaver County Corporation for Economic Development, with Lou Velati and his group. We work very closely with the Chamber when we can, and other organizations that are doing economic development. Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, Allegheny Conference, organizations that need to be involved. Bottom line is, if you're going to attract and retain families in here, it takes everybody in this room to collaborate and create the best quality of life to continue to attract and retain those folks and those businesses. So,
Yeah, as you said, I think one of the most important things is continuing to engage. For the chamber, engage in our directors. You know, we have many who are here today who are interested in what's going on, but it's important that the business leaders, labor leaders, community leaders engage with our directors, and if you don't engage with them, engage with us. As Commissioner Manning said, and Commissioner Amadeo said earlier about the Fire Chiefs Association, I'm going to give an example. Mr. Bates is here. And we thank him for his advocacy for the Fire Chiefs Association, because if he didn't come to our meetings and discuss so many open items with us, we wouldn't engage with him as much. So it's important that you engage with the commissioners and or department head, whether it's for economic development or whether it's for streetscape with Director Landrum at community development. So that's the only thing I would continue to do, is please engage not only with the commissioners, but our directors and our other elected officials who are here.
Yeah, and we also sit on other boards and commissions that take up most of our time. We engage with members of the Southwest Planning Commission. I mean, it may take us 10 years just to get a bridge. If you look at the bridge that's crossing between Aliquippa and Ambridge, that bridge is going to be 100 years old in 2026. My son crosses that bridge twice a day, every day. So I worry about that. We spent $26 million about 8 years ago renovating it, and we knew that it was only going to be good for so many years. But we had to work. We had to work with groups of people. We go to meetings. You have to get it on a TIF. It's just phenomenal. Then we have our public participation panels. I'm sure you've seen in the paper they advertise these every so often, where they want people, members of the county, to come in and tell us, what do you need? What do you want done? Do you think Broadhead Road, everything that was done on Broadhead Road was just done in happenstance? That was planned, pre-planned, because the various entities that needed to be in a room, we were able to get in a room to get it done. And seeing that we're in Hopewell, I'll give you my favorite line, and Jack likes to chuckle about this. My main point on that project was to turn 5 points into 4 points. It needs to be lowered down, or they need to come up with some other configuration so that traffic pattern, I don't know if it's a circle or what it is. We saw 2 major proposals, but every time we get a proposal from PennDOT, it's bazillion dollars, and it's so hard to get the enough money that you need in an account to get that accomplished. But that's just one example. The bridge is just another example.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to go through some very large topics that multiple people have asked about, and some very specific ones. And this one, I think you can probably tick off quickly, because I heard Commissioner Campy mention fire. In 2023, we heard about a county-supported fire training center at CCBC. Any update on that?
Well, I'm probably the only one up here that ever went to fire school. But I'm old, so when I went to fire school, it was in North Swickley Township. And I knew when they closed that down that Beaver County probably wasn't going to get another one. We tried to do it by the community college behind it. But the problem with that is when you have to practice burning a house down, the asphalt in the roofs, for example, creates smoke, people complain. Even if it's a controlled burn in a controlled building, the neighbors aren't going to let that happen. And if you go, because when I was a township supervisor, we tried to get it moving, and people just came in, especially the people around the high school and around the developments and around the areas, and they just fought it. I don't know what the answer is. I know we need training. I went to Lewistown one time to a fire school, but we need something local. We used to have a fire seminar at the community college where we were able to get training hours, and I don't know what happened to that, just like I don't know what's happening to this mic.
Yeah. This is definitely something that I would like to engage conversation with those who are in charge of that. But one of my biggest things, whether it's a new training facility for the fire department or the police department, whatever it may be, I like to see how we sustain it moving forward. We could always work with our state officials. I know Representative Kale's office has representatives here, Monica. You know, there's money out there to be found to be able to build something. But moving forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, how can the county sustain it, or how can the community college sustain it? And that's what's important to me, is to be able to find that. So these conversations can continue to be had, but as we said, and Commissioner Manning, and this might get brought up later, you know, our board supports the police and fire we're proud of them. We're proud of what they do for Beaver County residents. You know, we're not going to continue talking about money, but it's just something else we did. We put a grant together for consolidation of police and fire departments, because we know there is a need. If the municipalities want to, we're not asking them to. If they want to, there's a need, because we need to make sure we can service our residents better. And how can we do that other than consolidating?
Well, and you're going right to my next series of
Looks like you
questions.
could answer.
Some have asked about any more talk with the state about more school consolidation in the Beaver Valley. Another question about regionalization, and how is the county assisting in the collaboration of police, fire, municipal, administrative services. I know that's a big issue, but maybe a few specific progress updates for the group.
I don't know about too much on the progress update. There's a lot of moving parts there, but I'm in favor of regionalization with anybody who wants to regionalize. We know that in order to sustain some of the services that we have to leverage the resources we have. Certainly, I think the biggest success from a police standpoint has been the Beaver Valley Regional Police Force, where 4 communities have now come together to consolidate one police force. It's bringing stability and full-time job opportunities where individually they didn't have that opportunity. I'm always in favor of those things, but I'm not in favor of forcing anybody to do anything. They have to choose to do that. There's a lot of conversations going on with a group called Flourish, looking at leveraging really our K-16 educational system here in Beaver County, and how do we leverage resources? How do we strengthen our school districts? How do we ensure that every child in Beaver County has the opportunity for the career path that's right for them, and that career path isn't determined by the zip code they live in or the address that they have. So there's a lot of moving parts in this stuff. We're in favor of anything that anybody wants to come together, and we will help facilitate that wherever we can. Fire departments, I know there's several mergers under consideration, a couple that have happened already. We encourage that as well. 47 fire departments, 34 police departments, 3 or now maybe 4 ambulance services in the county. That's a lot on paper, but in reality, when you look at the staffs and the volunteers behind that, we're struggling to keep pace. So regionalization to me is important. Consolidation is the word, not necessarily mergers or forced mergers, but how do we consolidate, leverage the resources we have for the best benefit of our kids and our community.
Yes, I think we all agree on that. The main focus point of that is buy-in. If you don't have buy-in from those entities, it's not going to occur. We have buy-in from the fires departments. We have buy-in from most of the police departments. But when you talk about the schools, that's a whole different situation. You have to get buy-in. We tried, I'm not sure, 12, 14 years ago, the Board of Commissioners tried to meet with the superintendents. And what I learned back then is some school districts are run by their superintendents, and some school districts are run by their school boards. And you don't know who you're talking with when you meet with them. It's hard to get a government to sit down and possibly change their own entity. When I first ran for commissioner, I was still teaching civics in Center Area High School, right during the merger talks. And it wasn't pleasant, I can tell you right now, it wasn't. The nice thing that happened at the time was teachers got telephones, I thought, in their rooms on their desks, until I got one particular phone call. Now, I'm running for commissioner. I'm in the middle of my hopefully my last teaching year. I get a call from the secretary to the Secretary of Education. I didn't know what to do. I said, well, I'll call you back. I got to talk to my principal because I have to teach next period. So I went and talked to my principal, and came back, and he said, go ahead, take the call. So I took the call. They were desperate. They were coming to a high school teacher and asking him to try to get in the middle of merger talks. And you have to understand, at that time, we're talking Center Township residents and Monaca residents. Half of them were related. And I know that for a fact. And yet they didn't want that. It was tough. But they decided that we're going to do it. The state put the money in. It was tough. It wasn't an easy event. And even when it occurred, it wasn't happy. Not until the football team start winning championships. That's when the merger worked. So the underlying reason, and what I'm trying to get to is why it's so hard to put schools together.
Well, the economics certainly came through in some of those. Commissioner Camp, anything else on the merger before we move on to the next question? You think that's been fully addressed? Okay. Well, all right. The next set of questions I think are very important to the work of the chamber and those business owners with us here in the room. Really about economic growth, both in the past 10 years and how we look ahead, to the next few years. What are some very specific action items or opportunities for economic growth? And then I think kind of a related question here is, what is the county doing to support new businesses and organizations, working to support small businesses? So that's kind of all in the mix, big, small, and what are you thinking about in terms of economic development?
The biggest thing I think is infrastructure. When we talk about reinvesting CARES Act dollars or monies back into infrastructure, whether it's our downtowns or our more rural communities, if there's not infrastructure, businesses won't come. If there's not broadband, businesses won't come. Now, again, I'm not just pushing things to a side here, but that's in my opening remarks when I kind of explain what this board does, and Commissioner Manning said it best. We wear a lot of other hats. We promote economic development. We promote residential development. But at the end of the day, it does fall on those local municipalities having to want change in their communities, because ultimately they're the ones who are going to control the zoning and the permitting. We could only support and provide that. So one of our goals, I believe, is definitely to make sure the infrastructure is there for these businesses, whether they're looking to come or whether they're already planning to come, that they can and they'd be willing to flourish and succeed. Because if that infrastructure is not there, they're not going to be able to do so.
Yeah, before I say something, I just had a flash in my head. I want to make sure I drew attention to it. We work together very, very well. And our office girls work together very, very well. And I'm thinking here, did I mention Brittany Colangio or not? And I think I didn't, but I'm going to do it now. Brittany and our girls in our office do a wonderful job, and they make things happen for us. Getting back to the other question. The thing I learned a long time ago is, if you want growth and development, you have, like Dan said, you have to have infrastructure. And it's very, very important. When I was a very young township supervisor, I borrowed $6 million when we created the first TIF, it was called. And we built it behind a mall because we couldn't get the mall to do any renovations at the time. They just didn't, it was like, it seemed like to me that it was a write-off mall.
Nothing's changed.
So, so what we decided to do is create competition for them. But in essence, what we were doing was during the Great Recession. Nobody had money. So it was easy to borrow money, and we took a shot at it. We borrowed $6 million. I remember I was probably as young as Dan is right now, and I couldn't sleep at night trying to worry about, how are we going to pay this? We had 20 years to pay it. We just paid it off not too long ago. But we created that district behind the mall so that when the economy came back, because we had all the infrastructure put in, we had all the pad-ready sites, at the time, we were the only place in town you could develop. And then after that, it progressed and development moved. And now, if you look, Center, up the expressway, all the way to Chippewa is all growing. Beaver County is growing.
If I go back to what Dan said earlier about change, I've been in change management most of my career, helping people solve problems and organizations move forward. And change is a function of a compelling vision of the future, times a plan of action and a first good step being equal to or greater than the resistance of change. That's how change occurs. And we have several communities that don't want to change. And that's fine. That's up to them. We can't force change on them, but we can try to prepare the foundations for population development and growth and economic development. Beaver County infrastructure is one of those. Affordable housing is another key component to that. Workforce development is another huge component to drawing people into the area, and that's where the collaborations come in. The work that we've done with the colleges and universities, with the apprentice programs, with the trades, with labor and folks to try and make sure. I asked this question, I think the other day, when I was on the radio station. I still don't know which comes first. Do people follow jobs or do jobs follow people? And when somebody can tell me the right answer, but I know it takes both in order for us to succeed. And I know those foundations have to be there. And to me, those are a couple of the critical items we need to work on: affordable housing, workforce development, and then those quality of life amenities. Again, I was involved in mergers and acquisitions and stuff. When we were looking to relocate to an area, there were several things we looked at around the quality of life. One of them is education. Where are my kids going to go to school? Another of those are crime statistics. Another of those are recreation opportunities. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, Katie, and we're trying to address most of them as we can to lay the foundations. But again, we don't have direct control of them and purview, and we can only make change where people are willing to accept change.
Well, you guys touched on a whole lot of issues that we have some more specific questions about here. So I'm going to, the infrastructure I think is really important. It's one of the items that the chamber, has added to our agenda for this year on the government affairs side, and yet we're not naive that it's not a year activity. It's multiple years and working with a whole lot of different funding sources and landowners. But that one of our attendees asked, as a newly elected school board president, there's a lot of need for infrastructure improvement. What kind of advice could you give a school board president to help finding solutions to those infrastructure challenges?
Well, they have to first meet with their municipalities, because that's where the infrastructure is done. That's where the zoning is. That's where the development comes from. School boards can't do that. I mean, they have water requirements, they have sewer requirements, they have all those types of requirements, but they have to go to their township, whether it's their township commissioners, their township supervisors, their borough councils, and they have to make sure they have the excess capacity to take the new development, first of all. If you don't have the capacity to take the sewage or the capacity to give the water, you can't extend your lines. So you're actually, excuse the pun, dead in the water.
Other thoughts on that?
Well, we have 14 schools. We have probably 10 high schools that are going to need anywhere from $25 to $40 million worth of renovations over the next few years. Some of those schools are graduating 50 kids-ish and stuff. I think we need to get creative on how we improve the infrastructure issues that exist in many of those high schools. I don't have any advice other than continue to talk about how do you leverage what's out there in Beaver County.
not saying you're not already doing this, but it's important to prioritize. Prioritize what is the biggest need for your school district, whether it's water, sewer, or maybe a new facility. But that's most important, is prioritize and then go down through that list. Leverage, be able to find out what's out there. There's a lot of money through the state and federal, and also the county doesn't have money to leverage, but we can help support that. And that's one of our biggest roles as well. And I say this all the time: is don't hesitate to meet with us, to ask us how we can help support your needs on a state and federal level as well.
Right. And related to that, there are, you talked about, families and the important role that families play, in job decisions. But a couple questions here that I know is something we've talked about at the chamber, which is how do you these population change challenges, not just Beaver County, but Western Pennsylvania has been losing some population, which has a direct line with our voice in Harrisburg and Washington D.C. And that's related to young families. And then a related question, I think we can put this all together, is how can the county partner with higher education in Beaver County to work to keep the graduates here to both live in higher ed institutions we have, all of which I think are represented well here today.
Okay. So it's important that, not that we families who are leaving Beaver County to go out, what's happening is the natural cycle of life. We're not having families moving into Beaver County, and that's what's important. We have to be able to build the quality of life for people who want to move in, whether it's through our park system with Tony Caltori and his staff, tourism. We have to have reasons for people and families and individuals want to come in, but also we have to have housing. And we see these reports, and I know the population is declining, but we are seeing structures and housing plans go